Well, you can see by the calendar that there's one of two things it can be today. Either A, this can be just another Sunday, depending on where you are in the world and your beliefs and whatnot. There's that whatnot thing that I don't bring up very often. Or it's Christmas! So, yes, we're going to get a little animated this week. So, I'll shoot with you guys. I have seen one of these movies, and I'm not...
His opinion is bullshit. That's all you need to know.
Anyway, it's Christmas, so we're going to talk a little Aardman, apparently, today. So we're going to find out what happens when AJ finally gets to talk about Wallace and Gromit on camera, and also Chicken Run as well. So, AJ, take it away.
I'm sorry that it's Christmas and everybody's happy, and we're talking about Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run, and it took me all of 30 seconds to say bullshit.
There's the reason there's a disclaimer in all these videos. Anything that involves you or Ashley, I have to put an automatic disclaimer on them.
Okay. So, I never really grew that attached to Chicken Run. I've only seen it probably a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen Wallace and Gromit a bunch.
Yes.
I got it after it came out on DVD. I didn't get to see it in theaters, unfortunately. I think I mainly watched it because of the Oscar season.
Yeah.
It ran away with the animated category all year, rightfully. And I wanted to see what all the fuss was about, and it was just one of the most wonderful things I'd ever. It's just one of the most wonderful and happy and jovial and funny. It's funny as hell.
I don't know why you gravitate towards this movie.
Well, the thing is that for starters, it feels like there should be like a whole series of these, but there was only the handful of shorts,
right?
And then this was the first feature-length one because they had The Wrong Trousers, which won the Oscar. And A Close Shave, which I think was nominated, as well as A Grand Day Out. I have a VHS with all three of those on it. And then obviously, long after the fact, A Matter of Life and Death was a few years ago.
This year sucked so bad there were 3 animated movies nominated for the Oscar.
In that span of time, that's pretty much the way it was.
Yeah,
that was before they expanded to 5.
I guess I'm just getting used to the 5 now.
So yes, I was very. I was only familiar with the shorts after the movie, but once I came across that VHS, it was love from then on. And I was very excited when A Matter of Life and Death got nominated when it came out. So, and they have a win under their belt is nice too for both short and feature length now. And there's really, like, I don't even know where you start. Just from the very get-go, this movie is just one of the happiest things you've ever seen. And it's so... Even being portrayed as a type of almost horror setup, as you can see, with the were-rabbit being all big and threatening, even though it's a little misleading that this shadow for the were-rabbit and Wallace are coexisting. That's cheating, my friends. Of course, I never really thought to take a look, but... is it supposed to be Wallace's shadow casting and it's the were-rabbit? I only just noticed this looking at it.
That's pretty much what it looks like, at least from here.
Nice people. I love you, Aardman. You guys are great. So, first thing to notice is, obviously, Chicken Run had come out a few years prior. But at the time Wallace and Gromit came out, it was still... The whole stop-motion look still wasn't as big as it eventually got, even though this was the same year as Corpse Bride, which I also love. It's very underrated in Tim Burton's canon, I think.
Agreed.
And it's one of those cases where you can actually... There are scenes where the characters actually still have fingerprints on them from where they were molded, which is really cool and kind of gives it that really personal effect from the people that made it to the audience. And then there is Helena Bonham Carter's in this as well, on top of Corpse Bride. So it was really... And there is, regardless of the look, in this particular movie, there is some CGI used. But not a whole lot to my understanding. I think the bunnies, when they're in the Bunovac, was CGI, but for the most part, it's just the normal animation. And even if you hadn't seen those shorts, like I hadn't before I saw the movie, there's just, you can attach yourself to these characters immediately. Like, you don't even need that prior introduction to them, because you just fall right into this. And if I remember correctly, it's really kind of like when you look at Ren and Stimpy. You know how pretty much at the start of every Ren and Stimpy episode they live in a new place. Like, sometimes they lived in a mansion, sometimes they lived on the street, sometimes they lived in a regular house, sometimes they lived in a birdhouse. It's kind of one of those cases where there's not particular canon from one to the other. So in this one, they are antipesto, where they go around and they stop the bunnies from getting into gardens and eating all the plants and the vegetables, because there's going to be a big ass competition that's being held. It's like what was it? Like it's the 570th anniversary or something. Something extreme like that. And eventually the were-rabbit gets loose and starts really causing a fuss. And this movie basically kind of takes those little elements of a werewolf movie and puts them in this Wallace and Gromit cartoon that's at feature length. And throws in some new characters, like Ray Fiennes as Victor Quartermain, who's like our villain, and Helena Carter as Lady Toddington, who is our damsel in distress of sorts that Wallace wants to save for one reason or another, or both of them. We all know Wallace is just a sexual deviant behind all of his Laurel-esque stupidity and naivete, but... and that's also something that's kind of appealing about the whole Gromit's the dog and Gromit's the straight man. Has always been... I mean, it's not like it hasn't been done before, but Wallace and Gromit are kind of the kings of it, where Gromit... First off, another thing I love is that Gromit never speaks, which is his whole thing. He hardly ever changes his expression. But we still know so much about how he handles and how he feels affectionate towards certain things, or any other emotion he may feel. And what I imagine is your problem among many might be that if you know Aardman well, you know a lot of the humor. A lot of humor is very, very clever, and very involving like setups and payoffs, and how something could be set up at the very beginning of the movie and not pay off till the end, and you're like, oh yeah, they set that up like an hour ago, and the longer ago it was set up, the funnier it is, and the more meticulous the setup was. Just makes it even funnier when it actually comes. But there's also puns everywhere, just pun after pun everywhere. But the thing is that in another movie, it might seem kind of desperate, or it might seem like a cheap laugh. In this movie, it's all about that endearing quality. That's just, like, that kind of humor falls in line exactly with the rest of the movie. And really, it kind of fits in with the whole style it's going for to begin with. Because puns are very simple, but can just, in the right moment, or, in the right context, just be something that really, really puts a smile on your face. And this movie is able to do that a lot. Every now and then there might be kind of a forced one, like, the fact that Wallace never calls Gromit by anything other than his name that we know of. He's always Gromit in one form or another. But for one time, he just called him Dog, and the reason for that was to set up the pun. When Gromit first realizes that Wallace is the were-rabbit, and he comes to the breakfast table and he's got his ears, and he's eating vegetables without hassle for the first time, and he's eating a carrot with his bunny ears, and looks at Gromit and says, "What's up, dog?" It's like, that one's probably a little forced. But everything else I'm perfectly fine with, and it just adds to the wonderful nature of the movie itself. One of my favorite characters in the movie, if not movies in general, is Hutch. Hutch is the rabbit that Wallace captures. And of course, everything has to be humane, because this movie is way too happy and jovial to be any other way. That's why Quartermain's the bad guy, because he actually wants to shoot and kill these poor little rabbits that just invade gardens. So Wallace and Gromit have it set up where they just take the rabbits, keep them in the basement, and feed them regularly. So just give them a home, really, is what they do, while keeping them out of trouble. And after one of Wallace's inventions, shockingly, doesn't go exactly according to plan, where he tries to will the rabbits to not like vegetables, and the way he just turns away. But eventually, obviously, this causes Hutch and Wallace to trade, and that's how Wallace becomes the were-rabbit, and Hutch, in hilarious fashion, starts to take on the personality traits of Wallace. Which is where a lot of the biggest laughs of this movie come from. There'll be some moments where Hutch is just sitting in bed with nobody around to hear him talking about cheese. Because that's supposedly what Wallace would do. I also like the, when all the action's going down and all this franticness, and he just goes to bed. We just see him walk up the steps and just casually say, "Good night, Gromit," while all this action. Oh, I laugh uncontrollably anytime Hutch is on screen, I think. Especially when he's turning into Wallace and dressing like him. There's just such an innocence to the humor of this movie, you know? There's nothing malicious, there's nothing, you know, particularly... Like when movies try to, like, hide dirty jokes, it's not really anything like that I can think of. Maybe there's something, but off the top of my head... there might be some innuendo with Wallace and Lady Donnington, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But then there's stuff where, like, they'll even make very important things that are going on in the moment and sacrifice them in the name of comedy. Like the fact that Quartermain is going to come after them and with his gun at the end during the climax, but he only has one bullet. And the only reason he has one bullet is because he had two, but he needed to get the attention of the townsfolk, so he, not thinking, fired into the air and lost a bullet and didn't realize it until after it had already happened. I always thought that was a really funny way to set up the old cliche of one person in a gunfight only has one bullet. That'd be why. Because he just nonchalantly wasted it without thinking about it. And his dog, Quartermain's dog, obviously is another high point here, that I will never get over the first time I saw the scene when they're in the coin-operated airplane and they're fighting and it stops because it's out of coins. And this vicious bulldog pulls out a coin purse with a flower on it. It seems like such basic, obvious kid humor. But in the moment, in context, within all this, the whole movie is just hysterical. Like, non-stop. Like, to the point. Every time I watch this, I laugh so hard I feel like I need a doctor. That's... That always was the case. See, I can't even talk about it without that happening. And then there's also some... I guess you'd say shots, you know. It's hard to say that in animated movies, but yeah, for this, obviously, you'd still say that. When there is stuff like the way they use a shadow, very clever in one scene, or that scene where it's like, I don't know exactly what the purpose of this is, but it's just something I notice, where there's a lever with a black ball on the end of it, like the handle, and this black ball looks exactly like Gromit's nose. And at one point, Gromit's sitting behind it, and it's in the foreground of the shot, and it lines up. It's like, there's really no purpose for that, but it's just a really interesting looking shot. So yeah, and just the way they just let this whole eccentric quality run with it. When so many animated movies, I know this movie is 11 years old now, but even so, still kind of, this was still in this vein, in this time frame, really. When animated movies really have such a very safe formula, it's really nice to see movies like the ones Aardman puts out, where they still have some jokes in there, like the leper boat from the Pirates. Those jokes that maybe push people a little bit, but are ultimately in a very happy movie, and just a movie that's just full of. There's just no negativity in it at all. This is, and yeah, yes, you do have Victor Quartermain with a rifle trying to kill Wallace. He's still doing it with fucking cotton candy on his head because he lost his toupee. Can I just say I also love the fact that the one thing, like when you have the Hulk, the one thing that stays is his purple shorts. I do love that Wallace turns into the Were-Rabbit, and the one thing that stays is his bow tie. I just love this movie. I love everything about it. I've seen it so many times, and I will see it so many more, and it'll be just as charming and hilarious the 100th time as it was the first. Yes, so fuck you. Alright, so going on to Chicken Run, like I said, I don't have as much of an attachment. I've only seen it a couple of times. But there is one thing worth noting immediately, and that is there's going to be a lot of familiarity when I talk about Chicken Run. Why is that? Because Chicken Run is a parody of The Great Escape and Stalag 17. Go figure. Something I think most children did not pick up on, or people who grew up with it and haven't seen it since their childhood never really put together until, either you see one of those movies or you hear something, but it'll occur to you eventually. To the point that, it's a lot like The Great Escape in plot in general. All the way to when Ginger, I think is her name, is put in solitary, which is just like, the coal container. And she actually does the thing where she throws the ball against the wall, like Steve McQueen. And then for Stalag 17, obviously, the coop, or whatever it is that they stay in, has the number 17 on it. There's a whole bunch of numbered ones, but the ones our heroes stay in is 17. Go figure. And, however, I will say, this was what, a year or two before Shrek? I don't know. It's been popular in animated movies for a while. Kind of like all the pop culture references Robin Williams makes in Aladdin. But I think it goes even farther back beyond that. There was one, what is it, The Sword and the Stone? Mm-hmm. Is it, that has all the modern references in it? And it's weird. But no, in this particular movie, though, Shrek was kind of that movie where something changed and made it, like, it would pop up in animated movies, but Shrek made it really, really mainstream. To put, like, hidden jokes in animated movies that may be references that kids will never get, or innuendos kids will never get. But there is some stuff in here that predates that, like the fact that it's a spoof of The Great Escape and Stalag 17. It's almost like it's the animators having fun and saying, oh, by the way, this will mark practically a large portion of the people that will see this are kids, but it entertains us to know that The Great Escape and Stalag 17 are in this. And their parents, should they be aware. But then we get also really reference heavy with, as I was telling you, the rooster, Rocky, the one that's going to help them, supposedly, is played by Mel Gibson. And he's trying to fly, and he's trying to get out of here as well. So the very first time we see Rocky, he's flying over them, and he thinks he's about to get out. What do you think he says? He's played by Mel Gibson. What do you think he says as he thinks he's fleeing his prison?
I don't.
Yes, it's one word. Stretched out. Of course. But, Braveheart references will not save him, as clearly he does not make it, and he is still trapped here with them. But they're under the impression that he is a rooster that can fly, because he is a schemer, of course. And he will... There's a lot of... If you love Over the Hedge, RJ, the character, the raccoon played by Bruce Willis, I imagine a lot of inspiration for that character came from Rocky in this movie. Because I know it's an age-old plot, but those two really kind of are close together. We really could have done Over the Hedge with Chicken Run too.
Yeah.
Where it's the guy that comes in, and he's kind of using them for his own needs, but he eventually befriends them, and then they find out he's a liar, and then everybody gets sad, but then he's eventually friends with them when they do what they need to do. But even though we've seen that plot a bunch of times, either we've seen it in animated movies or we've seen The Great Escape in Stalag 17, the characters are what really brings this to life. And they don't necessarily need recognizable voices to do that. I mean, we do have like Mel Gibson and Miranda Richardson and Timothy Spall, and Elda Stone, I think. She just fits this. She has to be in it. All these characters, and even though they're all chickens, obviously they'll have not just distinct looks, but distinct personalities as well. And then you also have the two rats, who basically feel like they walked off the set of the Muppets or something. They're like Gonzo's little buddy if he were the two old guys. That's that's basically who these rats are. But yeah, and Gibson is really good here too. And he's very, like, he's charming in a way to where it's not just, oh, that's a recognizable voice that brings this character to life. It's really the way he's kind of playing them and the way he's able to charm them. We get a sense that they would fall for this because the character is just has that way about him. And to the point, and we get so attached to all these characters that this is kind of probably the one movie that can make a picture of a cannon look so tragic. Because of course, naturally, they learn that he can't actually fly, and the flyer that they saw of him flying that says Rocky the Flying Rooster, he's actually just a circus act that's fired out of a cannon. There's this one particular scene that I've only seen it a couple of times, but like each time, I have this stuck in my head. And for some reason, it's hilarious to me. I can't even tell you why. I'm not even sure it's supposed to be funny. I can't tell. It's this. I think it's because it happens in the moment where you think it's just going to get boring. Because it's the moment where they find out he's a liar and they find out what he really is. And they go their separate ways and they get sad and mad at each other. And so we're focused on a hill, and we hear this music playing, and then a little bike comes over it, and all it is Rocky on a bike with this music playing on this giant radio behind him, and that's how he's leaving town. And he's singing. It's like, this might be the best, okay, fuck you guys, I'm running away scene ever. I don't even know if it's supposed to be as funny as I find it, but the image, it just is. I think it's his bad singing, too. But all of that aside, it is a movie that's able to... It's weirdly enough, I think the reason it's become so beloved and it's so acclaimed, especially when it came out, was how it's actually able... Because the characters work so well, and they have, like, so many human qualities to them that can actually be related to... It's interesting to see this movie capture, like, the human spirit with chickens. It's like, if there's one animal you think you probably wouldn't relate to, that might be at the top of your list. And they actually even show, there's one scene that, even to this day, I cannot believe is in this movie. Even having not seen the movie, you may have heard about this scene, because it's, like, really messed up. By the way, this movie is rated G. These days, you know what that means. You have to be absolutely 150% clean to get a G anymore. Like, just the absolute slightest thing will get you PG now. There is a scene at the beginning of this movie where we set up what the woman wants out of them. And so she goes and she picks a chicken out. A chicken that we've gotten to know in this brief time, that they clearly have an emotional attachment to. And she takes it, puts it in the room, and through shadows and sound effects, she takes an axe and cuts its head off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they don't shy away from it either. We hear the sound of it, and we see bones. It's like, even today, I can't believe that scene's in this movie. Even if this movie came out today and was PG, that scene wouldn't be in it.
No, probably not.
It's like, I don't care how hardcore you think Pixar is. I don't think they do that today. But then again, remember how outraged they got over the leopard boat? Like, it had to be cut out of the trailers, remember that?
I do remember.
So if we can't have a leopard boat in a trailer, I doubt we get to see this character get its head cut off and bones.
Yeah, probably not.
And then there's also that scene where, like I said, it's just a little line and it's just a little word, but still, the fact that the movie's rated G, it just kind of catches you off guard. Where the guy's upset about Rocky and the fact that he's American, and he's saying, what they're gonna do, and the guy he just walks away and he's muttering himself, and you can hear him say like, "Oh, those Americans, they're so overpaid and oversexed."
Back when this movie came out, that probably would have set me what? That came out during this movie?
And on top of all this, there's also some really exciting scenes in it. The Indiana Jones scene when they're inside the pie machine, that can get really intense. There's a lot of legit close calls where they almost die, and we almost witness it. And so all of this is... So the characterization and some legitimately exciting scenes and a nice big climax, it all works very nicely. There's just one thing kind of hovering over. And like I said, I keep giving credit, and I'm really not the I'm offended guy.
No.
At all.
Nope.
But I just raised a question while watching this. Like I said, this has nothing to do with me personally. I don't care. But I mean, in a whole, when you got to really think through the big picture here. You have this really happy animated movie about chickens trying to get away to keep from getting killed. And it's a children's movie. It's plugged as a children's movie, and it clearly is for children, regardless of the death scene. With that being said, do you think portraying it as a parody of... I mean, it's technically a parody of The Great Escape and Stalag 17, but still, the use of POW camps?
Yeah, it's
Do you think that's... If somebody were to say they found that insensitive, I don't know that I could argue with them.
Right.
It wouldn't necessarily just be somebody trying to be offended. I think that's kind of...
That's pushing the envelope
It's
a
pretty...
little bit.
Yeah, it's like...
For this time,
it's
more
not,
so.
It's not like a concentration camp, but...
No.
A POW camp is a bad place to be. So, it does make me wonder if that's maybe sometimes been seen as kind of, whoa. But like I said, if you see it as more like, they're just doing The Great Escape, they're just doing Stalag 17, it can be seen as harmless, I suppose, and maybe kind of a cute reference or something. I don't know, it depends on the person, but I think it's fine. So clearly, I'm Wallace and Gromit all day, every day, weeks, months, years.
Twice on Thursdays, something like that.
Decades. Centuries.
Yes.
Millenniums.
More. Somewhere.
But Chickerman's fine, too. Yes. There we go.
Alright, so that ends our special Christmas-themed edition of...
I just wanted to do something happy.
Yeah, versus...
It's a season to be all fucking jolly and shit.
Right. And with those words, too.
Yeah.
A lot of cool things coming from Podcast Network in 2017. Some new segments are debuting. We've got a lot of verses coming your way. Obviously, more Halloween Horror Nights 27 content. We just started our first couple weeks ago, so yeah, it's begun already, so get ready for it. Next week, we say hello to 2017 with a little roboticness. Not even a word, but...
I'm not sure. Yeah. You'll figure it out.
We'll be back. So, that being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. Thank you again for sticking around 2016. The best is yet to come, mark my words. So, follow along on Twitter at Podcast Network. If you like what you're seeing, like our Facebook fan page at Podcast Network. Check out our Patreon at Podcast Network and our merchandise available at Podcast Network. So, in the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. Happy holidays or happy Sunday, wherever you are. And until next year, boys and girls. AJ, any parting words?
That's it.